This happened to me Wednesday night. So my boyfriend lives in the town over and he orders me lifts back and forth to go and see him. We've been doing this for over the past 7 months without any problems. But we spent the day together and had an amazing time as always, and he ordered me a lift back home. The guy pulls up and my boyfriend puts me in the car and gives me a passionate kiss goodbye. The driver is from Cuba, hardly speaks a lick of English and is using Google Translate the entire time to talk to me. First, it started off as, "Do you mind sitting in the front seat? I don't like for people to sit behind me." Okay, no problem. However, instead of letting me out of the car, he asks me to climb over the seat, which made me feel a bit uncomfortable, and then I realized that he was staring at me the whole time that I'm doing so. Then he proceeds to tell me, "I hope I'm not being too daring, but you're very beautiful." Okay, cool, I get this compliment all the time, so I say thank you, but I'm a bit put off by this, to be honest. He goes on like a regular driver, asking me if the music was okay, and the volume and all that, you know, the regular stuff. Then he starts asking me about the address that I'm going to. "Am I taking you to your home?" I reply, "Yes, I'm going home." He then asks, "Can I go home with you?" I laugh at this and say no. He asks about the guy that put me in the car, if he was my boyfriend or my husband. He's my boyfriend, my soon-to-be husband. He asks, "Can I be your boyfriend too?" I say absolutely not. He asks why not. I say that I'm totally against that I'm in love with my boyfriend very much and that I'm extremely loyal and faithful to him. He says he doesn't have to know. In Cuba, we believe in having multiple partners, and not all of them know about each other. And I say, well, that's definitely not a thing for me. I don't believe in that one bit. He says, "Your boyfriend makes the mistake of sending you home alone. I would have taken you myself to make sure you got there safe." I'm getting very upset at this point, and I'm only laughing at what he says, trying to maintain a friendly composure because I know how ugly things could turn if I start giving this guy attitude. He doesn't speak again for a while, and when he does, he asks me again if he could come home with me. I tell him no again, and he says, "You're so beautiful, I really want to be your other boyfriend." I don't even say anything but shake my head no and start fidgeting with my phone. He tells me that he has a lot of money and that he would take care of me. I told him that I didn't care about that and that I wasn't interested. He asks if he could give me his number so that we could text each other, and I say no. After what seemed like an eternity, we pull up to my house and he gets down trying to help me with my bags. I decline his help and he tells me, "Hold on," and pulls out his phone one more time and asks, "Can I come inside with you?" I tell him have a good night and to have a safe trip back, and dart inside as fast as I could, locking all the doors behind me, calling my boyfriend immediately so that he could report this weirdo because I don't want this unpleasant experience to happen to anybody else. In the end though, the only thing Lyft did was give my boyfriend a $5 credit to his account for the unpleasant experience. He wasn't even able to tell him. He really wasn't even able to tell them why it was so unpleasant. And look, I know, stories like this aren't actually the scariest or creepiest ones out there, but if you were a young woman and in a stranger's car like this, and they were pressing like this and trying to come into your home and everything, trust me, going through something like this is actually pretty terrifying. So yes, ladies, creepy drivers are definitely a thing, and please, be careful out there. So I'm a man living alone in an apartment, for reference. I was walking into my building this evening and a lady that I've never talked to before and rarely even seen said hello. I'm personable and polite, so I said hello back and went to walk into the building. Then she asked how I was and how the weekend was going. I assumed it was just some friendly small talk, so I obliged, and then immediately she asked where I worked and how long I've lived in the building for, which threw me a little bit but seemed innocent enough. Then, about as soon as I finished answering, she said, no one has ever helped me or offered me help my whole life, and I'm just trying to better myself, but nobody will help. People don't ask me to go out and do any fun things, and I like to do fun things. So I just kind of stammered something about how that's rough or whatever. Again, immediately once I stopped talking, she started up the same thread, a bit frustrated and exasperated. I don't have any friends. No one offers help. I'm just a nice person. I'm paraphrasing, but that was basically it. This whole time she's like barely blinking though, won't break eye contact, and is kind of cornering me as well. My hair on the back of my neck is up and my skin is crawling, and my super came out and said that she needed me for something and got me inside. She then told me that I really shouldn't be talking to her. I said that I thought maybe she was just lonely and socially inept, but she said to avoid her. Women like this seem to have a good instinct about dangerous or unhinged people, so I plan on following her advice, but as someone with friends on the spectrum and having worked with the mentally disabled in my life, I at first thought that maybe it was just that. Now, it's been a few hours and honestly, I still cannot shake this uneasy feeling. I thought that I would ask anybody here if they knew what this might be, or maybe if this is ringing any bells or setting alarms off for anyone, because I don't want to treat someone who is just eccentric as a pariah, undeservedly too. But honestly though, I would be lying if I didn't say that my gut is screaming for me to be careful. Over a year ago, I was forced to move out of my apartment due to a serious mold problem that was making people sick, and the management refused to remediate it to the extent that we needed them to, and they did as little as legally possible, basically. But because of all of my things that were there essentially were caked in toxic mold spores, it was a huge effort to thoroughly clean what could be cleaned and bring the rest to the dump. We didn't thrift them because, well, the contamination was either too difficult or just not possible to clean certain items, like couches and mattresses and things like that. But anyway, my sister-in-law was helping me sort through everything that I owned to determine what was worth keeping and cleaning. I lost most of my belongings at this stage, but while we worked, she kept saying that she felt uncomfortable in certain rooms and couldn't shake the feeling. I didn't think too much of it. We were alone at night, and I suggested that we move out to the brightly lit porch instead. Every now and then she would turn back inside to grab a box or a tool or whatever, and then she said that she saw some shadow figures. She said that she didn't say anything earlier because it might have been her imagination, but now apparently she was sure. Well, we had done a lot of work, so we decided to just wrap things up and leave in the end. Now, on the way back to the car, she glanced back at the unit and she froze. She then says, "Look in the windows. You don't see that?" I didn't see anything out of the ordinary at first. She then held firmly onto my arm while trembling slightly and said, "How do you not see that? It's right there." She was apparently seeing a shadow figure, clear as day, looking right at us. Now, I may not have seen anything or felt anything, but just the fact that she was just standing behind me, gripping my arm harder and harder, and now had tears in her eyes. This woman is no actor. She was genuinely terrified. So now I was a little bit spooked myself. We got into the car and we left, and she said that the thing followed us with its face. I don't think that she could see discernible eyes, though, as we drove past it. We said some prayers to St. Michael and others, and really, that was about it. Now, could it have just been the mold problem? Maybe, but as far as I know, the mold in there, it really shouldn't have caused anything like that. Could she have just been seeing things? Possibly, but why the reaction like that? To this day, I'm really not sure what happened, but all I know is that it was a bit of a scary experience, and to be honest, I was glad that I was leaving. For a little bit of context, this happened last year around February. I am 17 and I'm a female. So, it was a random day. I had just finished school and I was home. I've always been very scared when I'm home alone, but it's not like all the time, but sometimes it just gets to me and I feel very bad and a bit paranoid, really. I'm just going to describe to you as well how my hallway is made so that you can understand the context to this story. So at the beginning of the hallway, there's my bedroom on the left, and after that, there's my parents' bedroom, still on the left, and at the end there's the bathroom that is the toilet too. The door to the bathroom is weird though because there's sort of a curved window in it, so if I'm inside the bathroom I can see movements and vice versa if I'm outside. I can also see movements from inside the bathroom, but it's not very clear. Anyway, so I was in my room and I decided to go to the toilet that was in the bathroom, and when I was in it, I didn't close the door or anything because, like I said, I was home alone. And then I heard a sound coming from my parents' room, like the floor was creaking and somebody was walking towards me. Of course, I locked the door right away, and so, I had 10% on my phone and all that in all the horror movies. Quite honestly, I have zero survival skills and I didn't think that it was that serious, so I called a friend on FaceTime and told her everything, but really I was scared, but sort of still laughing. It's what I do when I get terrified. So I decided to approach the said curved window that I mentioned earlier, and that was when I saw a man. I started to scream like I'm calling the police and leave and stuff like this. I didn't have a lot of battery on my phone, but I decided at this point to call my dad, who quickly rushed home. But still, at this point I had no battery and I just had to pray for my dad to get home quickly. I was scared and I imagined that when my dad was going to open the front door that the man was going to jump on him or something like that. After about 45 minutes where I was just sitting in the bathroom on the toilet but holding the door in case the man tried to push it open, my dad finally arrived. And trust me, I heard the floor creak again. And then my dad told me that I could come out and that there was really nothing there. In fact, there were no windows open or anything. I was really confused by that, and I think about this whole thing often. Did I imagine everything, or did something really happen? Just so you know as well, I'm really not into the supernatural stuff or explanations, so my theory is that somebody actually broke into the house at some point. I happened to come home at around that moment. They hid. They were somewhere around the house and they got out before my dad got home. Really, that's the only logical explanation for it. Still though, whether paranormal or not, that is a terrifying thought. About 6 or 7 years ago, a friend and I were on our way to visit another friend of ours who had moved to a small town for a teaching job in a state high school. All of us grew up in the same seaside state capital, and the small town in question is about 120 kilometers of bad road, curvy and slippery, but through it is a very scenic route as it goes through hills and also a natural reserve. Now, I cannot remember much of the tree trip per se, but really it doesn't matter too much. I was driving and we hopped onto the highway that goes inland. Rain was pouring down and we were listening to Black Flag whilst talking about music when I stopped at a gas station because the gas was getting low, and this friend and I, we're kind of charmers, so we start some small talk with the cashier and I mention that we're going somewhere. The cashier then mentions a shortcut through a dirt road instead of the usual highway, citing that it would cut 30 minutes short off the trip, but that it wasn't really that safe given the weather conditions. I emphasized that it was raining hard, but we were both idiots and, at the time, drunk idiots as well, so we kept an eye on the entrance and took the shortcut. It was a rocky road that cut through the Atlantic forest, probably illegal since it also cut through a national park. Due to the heavy rain, as you can imagine, it was especially rocky and muddy, so I had to keep a steady speed of about 5 to 10 kilometers per hour, in a Ford Ka 2015, mind you. There was not a single light in sight as well, Not a house, not a streetlight, only the car headlights showing nothing but water pouring down and a disgustingly horrible road ahead. We were joking about how the rain stopped, and my friend said that he wanted to take that chance to take a bit of a leak, so I just stopped in the middle of the road and I told him to hurry up. He then covers his shoes with a pair of plastic bags from the beers that we bought and goes to the front of the car. I honk a few times just for the heck of it, to take a few laughs of the situation, and he moves a little bit forward where the headlight sort of doesn't hit him anymore. And it took the time to light a cigarette to hear him kind of exclaim, sort of yell in fright, I guess, like when you're taken by surprise by something. And the guy ran back to the car, slipping and falling on the ground and messing up all of my passenger seat with his muddy pants and slamming the door. He then looks at me and says that he saw what he believed was a mountain lion or something like that, and that I should slam the gas and get the heck out of here. Obviously, I couldn't do that because of the conditions. Also, it would mess up my car suspension. Instead, I turn off the music, we wait a little bit, and nothing happens. But after about 20 seconds, we both see a huge, and I mean absolutely massive figure move between the trees. It was at least 2 meters tall or so, and we couldn't really see much of it, only black fur and the eyes that reflected the car's headlights. But as fast as we saw it, the thing went left and back into the woods. I think that I speak for both of us when I say that we were absolutely frozen and ecstatic all at the same time. To this day, I still don't know how I could remain calm enough to start the car and slowly drive away to our friend's place. We told him about it, and he said that it was probably a mountain lion still, but I don't know. Mountain lions aren't typically 2 meters tall. They may be horizontally that long, but not tall. And I swear that I could hear its footsteps as it ran away as well, despite the windows being closed, so whatever it was also extremely heavy. Anyway, I just wanted to share this in case anybody out there might know what the heck we saw that night. And about a year back, I was standing in my balcony around 3 a.m. at night, smoking a cigarette. I was facing the window, and in the window I saw a reflection of something sitting on the rooftop of the building opposite across the street. I turned around and there was nothing. I continued smoking, and as I look up at the roof again, I saw a dark figure sitting on the ledge of the building. It wasn't sitting normal too, kind of like how Spider-Man sits on a light pole, like it was hunting for something. I kept looking at it, trying to figure out what it was and if it's really what I think it is, or am I just sleep deprived or something. After like half a minute of me staring though, I felt like it looked back at me, and I just kept staring at it, and I was completely lost. It was a little bit dark, but I'm certain that this thing had almost human-like features, but in the most messed up way imaginable. A skin that kind of looked burnt, and I'm sure that it didn't have eyeballs and just 2 empty eye sockets. When I realized what I was doing, I immediately turned my head down. Just a second later, I looked up again, and it was gone. I went inside and drank some water, and I then hear a scream coming from somewhere nearby. I went to my balcony again, and the screaming didn't stop. It sounded like a woman, but there were no breaks in the scream. It was a continuous loud scream. Me being a bit of an idiot, I went downstairs and started walking towards the sound. The road was dimly lit and not a soul in sight. I walked, and I think about maybe 500 meters in, I realized suddenly that the sound was exactly like it was from my balcony. The sound should have been louder, much louder, but it was exactly the same. So I kept walking towards the sound, and I walked for a while and still didn't get any louder. Every once in a while I would forget that I was walking, or even where, and just kept walking, and then I would sort of snap back as well. It was a really strange feeling, and at this point I realized that I had come quite far from my house to an almost barren area. So I started walking back towards my house and the screaming didn't stop. It was an extremely eerie sound, almost human but not quite. A human's breath while screaming, but whatever it was, it didn't sound right. It's almost like I was drawn towards it too. Anyway, I eventually reached home and opened a can of beer, and after a while I went to sleep. I woke up the next morning and went to that rooftop to see if I could find anything. I first inspected the spot that I first saw in the reflection and then the ledge, and there was nothing. I used baby powder as well. Don't judge, I know, kind of cringe. And a transparent tape too to see if I could find a fingerprint or find any cells in the sample, but in the end I found nothing. Now, here's the thing though. I don't really believe in ghosts or the paranormal, like, at all. I honestly still don't because, well, I'm just a scientist at heart. But I cannot for the life of me find an explanation for this incident. It never haunts me. I didn't lose any sleep over it or anything, but I still wonder what it could have been. I know I wasn't seeing things. I mean, I wasn't drunk or high or anything. I guess the reason that I'm sharing this story after a year is because, well, 3 days ago, I was sitting with my friends and we were sharing weird things that we haven't told anyone about, and I shared this incident with them and they were pretty terrified by it, especially because they know that I'm the kind of guy who laughs at someone who claims that they saw a ghost or even someone who believes in one. A friend told me that she didn't sleep the night after going home and recommended that I share it here to ask people what they think it was. So, what do you think that it was? I'm sharing this because I found this place tonight and I thought that I would share something that I've experienced probably around 2005 to 2006 when I was about 10 to 11 years old. I've never told anyone about this and I always felt the need to though. It's just one of those things that I'll always remember, I guess. So, when I was a kid, we used to go on these monthly vacations in August to a beach town here in Portugal called Sesimbra. It was always very fun, going to the beach every day, playing football with my cousins, going out for dinner to eat seafood. Honestly, it was a really great time to be Portuguese and travel in your own country. Anyways, this old lady would arrange us beachfront apartments every year, and it would vary, some worse, some better. There's this huge building at the end of California Beach, though, which seems to be falling off the edge, and there's these sort of wooden stairs that you need to climb to directly access the building from the beach. If you've been there, then you'll know what I'm talking about, but we were spending the monthly vacation on this building specifically, on one of the top floors. I believe it was the 8th floor, and I used to sleep in the living room couch, which had access to the balcony. I cannot remember sleeping alone on a regular basis, mainly because I was really scared of the dark and being alone at that age. Usually my dad would sleep there as well, while my grandparents stayed in the only bedroom. However, I can't remember why he wasn't there this particular night. But since he worked a full-time job, he would often stay only for 2 weeks instead of the whole month, so it's probably why, I would guess, but anyway, all of that is to say that I was sleeping when I woke up, startled, and I couldn't move. I was conscious, and I don't think it was sleep paralysis or anything like that. I was just terrified because of what I was hearing and seeing. It was a loud buzzing sound and a sort of light blue light covering the whole living room. I swear to you as well that I was so scared that I just couldn't face it, because I felt like this presence, or whatever it was, wasn't good. I don't think it was evil or demonic or whatever, but just terrifying and sort of threatening. It seemed to be some kind of a UFO just hovering near the balcony. I promised myself not to move until it was gone, and then the weirdest thing is that I cannot remember if I fell asleep again or if I simply waited for it to go away, but the next thing that I remember is that it was morning. What I do remember, though, is thinking to myself, this isn't a dream, this is real, and I won't forget that this is really happening. So obviously I remember that part, but as for that time gap, I have no idea what happened. Anyway, this felt good to get it off my chest after so many years and finally voice it and tell some other people. If you have any input or if you would like to share any thoughts, then please do.